The segment was designed to be the most gentle kind of television. No live crowd, no clapping, no comedy bits, just 2 chairs, 1 small table, and a promise that this would be a calm, honest exchange. By the time the recording stopped, the show would cut quietly to a break and the guest would be walking off set. Something had gone very wrong in a space built to feel safe. The studio reserved for the one-on-one edition of the morning program was deliberately simple. Warm, diffuse lighting softened the exposed brick. Tall panes of glass looked out over a muted skyline. 2 cream armchairs faced each other with a low glass table between them. On it, a small blue gift box sat perfectly centered, untouched. It wasn't meant to be opened. It was decor, a symbolic marker between 2 people who were about to test each other's limits. On the left sat Marcus Ellison. He leaned forward just enough to signal attention, wearing a navy suit and open-neck white shirt. No tie, no stiffness. His hands rested loosely on his knees, fingers interlaced. Years of hosting live TV had taught him how to read a room before anyone spoke. And even before the tally light blinked on, he could feel it. This would not be a smooth interview. Opposite him, Mara Kingston sat very straight, back not touching the chair, legs crossed with deliberate poise. She wore a fitted dark dress, clean lines, no distractions. Her hands were folded neatly in her lap, unmoving. Her face was composed, polite, but guarded. It was the kind of calm you rehearse. The red light above the main camera came to life. Marcus smiled gently at the lens. "Good morning," he said, his tone low and familiar. "Today we're bringing you an in-depth one-on-one conversation. No panel, no interruptions, just time to talk." He turned to Mara. "Mara, thanks for joining us." She gave a small nod. "Thank you for inviting me." It sounded cordial, almost warm, but nothing in her eyes softened. Marcus leaned in a fraction. "You've been in public life for a long time now," he said. "Performer, public figure, mother, advocate. People have said a lot about you. Today, I'd like our audience to hear directly from you." Mara tipped her head slightly. "That would be a change of pace," she said. The words were polite, the delivery was not. Marcus let it pass. "You've described this phase of your life as being about healing and independence," he continued. "Walk us through an ordinary morning for you now." It was meant as a soft, human starting point. Mara let out a slow breath. "I don't really use the word ordinary," she said. "It has a way of flattening experiences that are anything but." Marcus nodded. "That's fair. So what does your morning actually look like?" She paused, just long enough for the hesitation to show. "Busy, like any parent, like any woman juggling more than one role. I don't think my day needs to be turned into a cinematic moment." Marcus gave a light smile. "I wasn't trying to romanticize it," he said. "Just give people a little context." "Context," she said, finishing the thought, "is important and very often misused." The temperature in the room shifted a notch. Marcus adjusted without making it obvious. "You've spoken before about stories being constructed around you," he said. "Does that still feel true now?" Mara's jaw tightened so slightly it was almost imperceptible. "Constantly." "In what sense?" asked Marcus. "In the way questions are set up, in the assumptions built into them, in this idea that I owe the public a full explanation for choices that were made to protect my own well-being." Marcus nodded slowly, picking each word with care. "But sitting here today is, in its own way, a choice to explain." Mara's eyes locked onto his. "I'm here to speak," she said, voice calm, "not to justify my existence." A line had been drawn, subtle but clear. Marcus didn't push it yet. Understood, he said. At the same time, there are people watching who are curious. Some feel encouraged by what you've done, others are confused. Confusion, Mara said coolly, often comes from people clinging to expectations that were never mine to begin with. Marcus paused. Such as? She leaned back slightly. That I should be quieter, more grateful, easier to digest. Marcus took that in. Do you think any of the pushback you get comes from the way your story has changed over time? The room seemed to still. Inconsistent or evolving? That's what I'm asking, said Marcus. The quiet between them stretched. Not awkward, charged. Growth doesn't come with a schedule, Mara said at last, and it certainly doesn't require me to explain every shift to strangers. Marcus nodded, but there was more steel in his voice. True, but when your story influences how people think about a lot of things, they're going to ask questions. Mara pressed her lips together. Influence doesn't equal obligation, she said. Marcus leaned back slightly, recognizing the wall he'd just run into. All right, he said evenly, let's stay with you then. Her shoulders seemed to drop half an inch, but her eyes stayed guarded. You've spoken often about reclaiming your voice, about walking away from structures that felt limiting. There are people who really admire that. Others hear something different in it. Different how? Mara asked. Why, it sometimes sounds, he said carefully, like blame. The word landed gently but decisively. Blame suggests I'm pointing fingers at individuals. I'm not. I've been critical of systems that reward silence. And yet a lot of people hear anger, Mara said. That's because women who set clear limits are almost always called angry, especially when they stop softening their edges for everyone else's comfort. Marcus leaned forward slightly. Do you see a difference between setting limits and shutting down conversation? For the first time, she didn't respond right away. Her fingers intertwined more tightly in her lap. I think real conversation, she said slowly, depends on mutual respect. And does respect, asked Marcus, include room for questions that you might not like? Her eyes flashed. Uncomfortable for who? She asked. For you, Marcus said calmly, or for people watching who are genuinely trying to understand. That assumes they're confused, Mara replied. Often what they're feeling is disappointment that I didn't live out the version of me they wrote in their heads. Marcus exhaled quietly. Some would say the version involved more openness. Mara's posture stiffened. Openness doesn't mean unlimited access, she said sharply. It doesn't mean I'm required to recount every wound on cue. Marcus didn't argue. He shifted. You've spoken a lot about mental health, about normalizing conversations around it. How do you balance that with not wanting to go into your own experiences? The air changed again. This one cut a little closer. Advocating doesn't equate confessing. I don't owe my pain as a receipt. Marcus nodded slowly. I hear that, but when your advocacy often draws on what you've been through, I never said it was built on that, she cut in. That's your reading. That's how many people interpreted your earlier interviews, Marcus replied. Her mouth tightened to a line. So now I'm responsible for every conclusion people jump to, she asked. Is that the expectation? It's the reality of being influential. Another beat of quiet. Mara shifted in her chair, crossing her arms this time, not defensive, decisive. What's really happening here, she said coolly, is you're trying to reconcile two versions of me, the tidy one and the actual one. Marcus didn't look away. And I think people at home are trying to understand which one they're hearing right now. She let out a small, humorless laugh. That's not my responsibility. Something in Marcus's expression shifted. Not anger, not offense, just a new seriousness. It becomes part of it, he said quietly, when you ask people to pay attention.
Mara leaned in a fraction. "I'm not asking," she said. "I'm saying what I need to say." The tension in the room condensed. Marcus folded his hands together. "Let's talk about life here in the States," he said. "Building a new chapter. Do you feel welcomed?" Mara tilted her head. "Depends who you ask." "I'm asking you," Marcus replied. "I feel watched, I feel misread, and honestly I feel judged for not performing gratitude." "Gratitude for what?" Marcus asked. "For being allowed to leave, for being seen as salvageable, for being tolerated." Some people would say gratitude isn't about permission, it's about recognizing what's been given. "Acknowledgement turns into expectation very quickly," she said. Marcus took that in. "Is there anything you look back on
inclined to let go?" The quiet after Marcus's last line lasted longer than television usually allows. Mara shifted again, uncrossing her legs, then recrossing them with measured precision, as if restaking her claim to the space. Her face was still controlled, but the calm had hardened into something more fragile. Marcus ended the pause. "Let me spell something out," he said evenly. "I'm not trying to trap you. I'm trying to understand the distance between what you say you want, being understood, and how often these talks end with you walking away." Mara's mouth tightened. "They end," she said, "because people refuse to hear anything that doesn't fit the story they've already decided on." "Sometimes," Marcus agreed with a nod, "and other times they end because some questions never get touched." Her eyes lifted. "I've answered plenty," she said. "Not this one," he replied, still gentle. "Why does disagreement feel like a personal attack?" It was a simple sentence. Its impact was not. Mara drew in a long, steady breath. "Because disagreement is rarely neutral," she said. "Most of the time it's carrying judgment under the surface." Marcus leaned in slightly. "Do you think your replies ever bring their own weight into the room?" She stared at him. "Are you suggesting I create this dynamic?" "I'm asking," he said, "if how we say things matters as much as what we say." Something flickered across her face. Irritation swiftly covered. "Worrying about tone is a diversion. It's a way to duck the real issues." "So is refusing to stay in the discussion," Marcus answered. "You're framing me as evasive," she said flatly. "I'm describing what people see at home." "People at home," she said, "don't see what happens before and after this." "They see this," Marcus said quietly, gesturing at the moment between them. The studio felt tighter, like the air had gotten heavier. "Fine," Mara said, voice cool. "Let's talk about substance." "Let's," Marcus agreed. "You've brought up impact, you've brought up families, institutions, hurt feelings, but no one talks about the cost of staying quiet, of falling in line." "That's a fair point. So why, she pressed, does the responsibility always land on the person who leaves to justify every step?" "Because leaving in public," he said, "creates public questions." "That's not accountability," she said. "That's theatre." "It can be both," Marcus replied. She leaned back. "And you're okay being part of that?" "I'm okay asking questions respectfully," he said. "Respect," she said, her voice cooling further, "means knowing when to stop." "Respect also means," he answered, "that you don't shut the whole thing down the moment it gets uncomfortable." A beat. Her jaw tensed. "You keep using the word conversation like this is a level playing field," she said. "It is," Marcus replied. She let out a dry little laugh. "You're the one with the broadcast," she said. "And you're the one who agreed to sit across from me," he answered. That landed. Her posture shifted, not explosively, but decisively. She leaned in,
elbows close to her knees, eyes never leaving his. I sat here to speak on my terms, not to be dissected. Analysis is part of interviews, Marcus said, voice lower. Interrogation shouldn't be, she snapped. No one's interrogating you, Marcus replied, still calm. It feels like it, she said, sharper now. Feelings aren't always proof of intent, he said. Her eyes flashed. So now how I feel doesn't matter? She said. I'm saying feelings and intentions aren't always the same, he answered. Something in the air gave way. Another line crossed, quieter but real. Mara sat up straighter, folding her arms across her chest. What I'm sensing is that you're more invested in pushing than hearing. I've been listening, Marcus said. What I'm not doing is backing down. Her expression cooled into something almost icy. Then maybe you're not the right person to ask these questions. Or maybe, Marcus replied, these are the right questions at a very raw time. How convenient, she said. Marcus glanced briefly at the blue box on the table, still untouched, still symbolic. Then he looked back. One more area, parenthood. Her body went rigid. No, she said. Marcus lifted a hand, not to argue, but to slow it down. Just in terms of privacy, he said. I've drawn that line clearly. My kids are not interview topics. Understood, he said. I'm talking about the balance between holding your ground on privacy and being a public advocate. No, she cut in, her voice firm now. You don't get to dress that up as a nuanced question. That boundary isn't up for debate. For the first time, Marcus's expression truly hardened, not with anger, but with resolution. Then show me where the line is, he said. I just did, she replied. He nodded once. Okay. He leaned back, leaving a bit more physical distance, but not surrendering the interview. Mara, he said quietly, do you think it's possible that these conversations keep collapsing because you're fighting the format instead of the actual questions? The air went still. For the first time she looked genuinely offended. That's out of line, she said. It's truthful, Marcus replied. Her voice dropped icy. You've crossed a boundary. I'm standing right at it. Silence spilled into the room, long, dense, unbroken. Mara looked down, then back up. The polished calm she'd worn at the start was gone. In its place was something colder, more breakable. I think we're finished, she said. Marcus held her gaze. We're close to the end, he said. No, she replied. I'm done. She shifted forward, palms pressing into the armrests, clearly preparing to rise. Marcus spoke again, quietly but firmly. Leaving doesn't erase what's been asked. She looked straight at him. Staying doesn't either. In that instant, everyone in the room understood. This wasn't a hypothetical break anymore. It was about to happen. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Mara remained half-raised from her seat, hands gripping the chair, her whole body already oriented towards the exit. Marcus sat across from her, still composed, the curiosity in his expression replaced with something more final. The quiet wasn't tense now, it was conclusive. Mara, he said at last, calm as ever, before you stand up, I need to say one thing. She looked at him, eyes sharp. I don't need a speech, she said. It isn't for you, he answered. It's for the people watching. That made her pause, only slightly, but enough. You agreed to a one-on-one, he continued, a space without a panel, without chatter, without interruption. We honored that. What we didn't promise was that the questions would stop when they got difficult. Mara let out a sharp breath. Questions are one thing, she said. What you're doing is something very different. My job, he said, is exactly this. Your job, she shot back, seems to be pushing until somebody breaks. No, Marcus said quietly. My job is to keep asking when others might back away. That hit her. She straightened fully. Then you can keep sitting here, she said, voice cold. I won't. Marcus didn't raise his tone. He didn't talk over her. He didn't try to block her. Instead, he said the one thing she clearly didn't expect. That's within your control. Her hand tightened on the arm of the chair. I'm done letting myself be picked apart, she snapped. Then don't agree to be interviewed, Marcus replied. There was no malice in it, just fact. The air seemed to shrink. The blue box on the table, never touched, never mentioned, sat between them like a quiet monument to all the things neither had been willing to unpack. Mara reached for her bag. You invited me, she said. You don't get a say in how I walk out. You're absolutely right, Marcus said, but I do get a say in how we close this segment. She froze for a moment. He turned slightly towards the main camera, not in a dramatic spin, just enough. Sometimes, he said evenly, conversations tell us more through the pushback than through the polished answers. We thank Mara Kingston for joining us today. Her eyes widened. That was it. No smoothing over, no chasing after her, no last-minute apology. The control had shifted. You're ending it there? She demanded. We're at the end, he said. For a split second, it looked like she might keep arguing. Then she didn't. She turned and walked off, heels solid against the studio floor, back straight, face unreadable. The cameras stayed on Marcus. He didn't joke, he didn't justify, he didn't sigh.